This is a message for the supposed watchmen on YouTube and TikTok, Facebook. These people that know the times we're living in, many of whom I'm grateful for, because earlier in my walk, when I was first awakened, I found these supposed watchmen on YouTube. And they did a lot of great decodes of what goes on in the entertainment world, decoding the signaling that we receive from the secret societies that have infiltrated not only the churches, but every walk of life. So there's a lot of people out there who've awakened to the fact that we live in an evil matrix, a complete clown show. It's theater. It's Jesuit theater. Total mockery at all times. And you've awakened to this, but yet you still buy into all the polluted horseshit teachings that come out of the apostate Christian church in Babylon. Like you're saved by grace through faith in His work alone. In His work alone. You could just kick up your feet and be disobedient to our Heavenly Father, who sent His Son, the messenger of the covenant, to teach us all things that the children of Israel desired in Horeb, when God and the children of Israel, through Moses acting as a mediator, promised to keep the Holy Covenant, the 10 Commandments. They are holy, they are just, and they are good. And Paul never, ever, ever teaches and preaches against the Holy Covenant. There's a law that is contrary to us. There is a law that is not good, and that is the sacrificial law, added for transgression as punishment until a mediator would come. Well, he came. And yet this wicked apostate church continues to break the commandments. They break commandment number 1 when they say Jesus is God. Jesus is a Roman winter solstice demigod invented by Rome to trick naive Christians into lawlessness, Sabbath breaking, and all things unclean, and idolatry. Your hippie Christmas TV Jesus is a fraud. They changed the Sabbath day, and they changed His name. Now, if that hurts your feelings, it's because you have cognitive dissonance, and you've made an idol out of hippie Christmas Jesus, and you don't read the scriptures line upon line, here a little, there a little, precept upon precept. So these dumb dog Isaiah 56 watchmen who cannot bark, that means they cannot warn the people to return to the Holy Covenant and obey God. Obedience is only considered a works-based salvation to children of disobedience. The 10 Commandments are not grievous, they are everlasting. It says in Revelation 22, verse 14, "These are they whom have access to the tree of life and gain entry into the kingdom of heaven, are they who do the commandments." How do you do the commandments? Well, you keep them, you guard them, you do them, you obey them, and you fulfill the royal law by teaching others to keep the 10 Commandments and by correcting them, rebuking them when they transgress the law. Matthew chapter 22, verse 39 speaks of loving thy neighbor, which is similar to loving God. How is it similar? Well, if you love God with all your heart and all your strength and all your mind, and all your soul and all your might, you'll keep the 10 Commandments and you'll teach others to do so. That's loving your neighbor according to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17, that we will not suffer sin upon our neighbor, but we will rebuke our neighbor so they don't receive the consequences of sin. We wish that none would be lost. We wish that all would be saved. We wish that all would come to the knowledge of God. And he prefers mercy and not sacrifice. Matthew chapter 9, verses 12 and 13 is the gospel right there in a snapshot. Don't say it's 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 1 through 4. Don't say that that's the gospel. That proves how ignorant you are. Paul says, according to the scriptures, according to the scriptures. This is what I have preached unto you previously. What was he preaching? Just 4 verses from 1 Corinthians chapter 15? Of course not. Go read what Paul had to say in the book of Acts. He taught none other things than that which Moses and the prophets said. There's nothing new under the sun, people. You've been deceived. The churches were infiltrated early. Jude chapter 1, there's only one chapter in his epistle. Verse 4, certain men crept into the churches unaware, turning the grace of God, the conviction of God on our heart, the divine influence on our heart to obey God. They changed that into lasciviousness. They call it unmerited, unearned, unconditional favor, and that is a doctrine of devils from the pits of hell. Read Jeremiah 23 about what Jehovah has to say about the burden of the Lord. Don't say burden of the Lord. Don't call his commandments a burden. Don't say they're impossible. How is it that you Christians can say things like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me? You can do all things except 10 things? You hypocrites and vipers. And don't get angry at me because I'm telling you the truth. I'm not condemning you. Am I judging you? Yes, in a way. We are to judge righteous judgment. That's what the royal law is. We are not to be respecters of persons. No, we're not supposed to be respecters of persons. So, fulfill the royal law is to love your neighbor as yourself and to rebuke them. Open rebuke is better than secret love. We ought to rebuke the fables. What are the fables? Christmas, Easter, pre-trib rapture. They're fables, people. You've been deceived. I was deceived too. And so now I'm trying to pay it forward.